So this is the news conference for Operation Ice Storm 3. As I mentioned, we have 3 speakers, Staff Sergeant John Geegon, Mr. Sheldon Kennedy, and Detective Justin Brooks. And we are also joined by 2 of our other primary investigators today, Dean Jacobs and Heather Bangle. And I will introduce Staff Sergeant John Geegon, who oversees the Southern Internet Child Exploitation Unit.
Good morning. Thanks for coming by. For your records, it's spelled G-U-I-G-O-N. Again, I'm Staff Sergeant with the Southern Alberta ICE Unit. ICE is an integrated team that investigates offences involving child sexual exploitation, specifically online. So that could involve luring online, it could involve child sex tourism or voyeurism, for example. ICE consists of members of the Calgary Police Service, Medicine Hat Police Service, Lethbridge Police Service, and the RCMP. Operation Ice Storm was an 8-month investigation that targeted high-volume traders in child sexual exploitation material. The investigation resulted in arrests of 10 suspects in Calgary, Medicine Hat, and Lethbridge. During the course of our investigation, a total of 30 search warrants were executed, 285 computers, mobile devices, and other storage drives were seized, and that totals in excess of 40 terabytes of information. It's a massive amount. Roughly half of those devices have been analyzed so far, and at this point in our investigation, we've discovered in excess of 50,000 individual videos and images depicting child pornography, child sexual exploitation. A total of 10 suspects were arrested, as I said. Each are facing charges of possessing, accessing, and making available child pornography. Those people are Troy Millington, 45, of Calgary; William Norn, 68, of Calgary; Robert Rogers, 42, of Lethbridge; Robert Thompson, 33, of Calgary; John Tulloch, 25, of Lethbridge; Stephen Mock, 35, of Medicine Hat; Michael Henderson, 68, of Medicine Hat; Gabriel Pereira, 42, of Calgary; Victor Rahal, 52, of Medicine Hat; Oscar Asensio, 41, of Calgary. As far as we know, none of the accused are considered to be in positions of trust or authority. You're going to hear more about our investigation from Detective Brooks, but today we're very fortunate to have Mr. Sheldon Kennedy attend. Mr. Kennedy is a remarkable advocate and leader in raising awareness of child exploitation. He's been a voice for people who have no voice. We asked him here today to share information about how these types of crimes victimize children and inflict greater societal harm. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Sheldon Kennedy.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I just want to thank Alert and all the work that you do. It's important work. 50,000 images, separate images, absolutely. That's a massive number. And I think right now when we look in society, there's a disconnect between human trafficking, child exploitation, and child sexual abuse, child abuse. And the reality is there is no disconnect. It's very much connected. If we look at the images, of 50,000 images, and those are 50,000 images of kids being abused, one way or another. And I think that what we see at the Child Advocacy Center, we see kids, 125 cases a month of kids being abused. And the connection to the internet is real. And the majority of kids that we see are 4 to 7. And the issues that these kids present to us when they walk through our doors is 68% of them present 3 or more of the following issues: self-harm, suicidal ideation, mental health, depression, addiction, and sexualized behavior. We know that kids that have been abused sexually are 26 times more likely to experience youth homelessness, 30% higher risk of high school dropout, 72% of individuals in treatment centers have disclosed early childhood abuse. The list goes on. We know that young males that have been abused by somebody close to them, somebody they know, are 45 times more likely to perpetrate dating violence. So the reality is the impact is real. It's not just an image. We see the people. And I think that that's the connect that we need to make today. We see the people. We see the kids that have been hurt. And ultimately, if we look at the downstream effects of what we see when we connect the dots, it's killing our kids. And we need to understand that. And when we think of it, like the magnitude of this, 50,000 images, that's real. Like, that's the size of some of the cities that we played hockey in. That's a big number. So I'm just honored to be here. I think that, you know, through my path, what I've tried to do is make visible the invisible. And I think this is no different. We need to make visible the invisible. And the more downloads we get, the more need of kids being abused. And, you know, the wow factor needs to keep growing. So to me, this is a major crime, and you're a part of it. It's no different than the bystander. If you look at the bystanders in a lot of these cases, how many adults sit around and know something that's going on and don't speak up? Well, this is no different. So anyway, I'm honored to be here, and thank you for your work. And to me, it's you know, this connection is real, and it's real people that we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheldon. We appreciate your ongoing advocacy. I'm going to turn it over to Detective Brooks. He's going to make a brief statement, then we'll open it up to questions. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Detective Justin Brooks. I'm with the ICE unit and was one of the primary investigators on Operation Ice Storm 3. Just want to open up by thanking Mr. Kennedy for being here. The words he spoke really ring for me, so thank you for being here. Operation Ice Storm 3 focused on child sexual abuse images and videos being traded on peer-to-peer file sharing networks. If you recall from the last time, we demonstrated the pervasiveness of online trading that's taking place across Alberta. Every day, thousands of child sexual abuse images and videos are being traded, viewed, downloaded all across the province. Simply put, we cannot arrest everyone at once. Instead, Ice Storm 3 targeted the suspects with the largest collections and some of the most graphic content. I'm not going to divulge methods used, but I can tell you that our investigators deployed a variety of sophisticated techniques in order to facilitate these arrests. We're only about halfway through our forensic analysis. To date, we've analyzed 40 terabytes of information where we've identified 50,000 child sexual abuse images and videos, and that's halfway through the forensics. Some of the victims in the images and videos are estimated to be as young as 6 months and depict extreme sexual violence. Every one of those images or videos represents a victim. And if you think about that, all around the world right now, there are young, innocent children being abused and being forced to commit despicable sexual acts. At this point in the investigation, we do not believe any of the victims are from Alberta, but we would be naive to believe that it's not taking place in our own backyards. The suspects arrested in Ice Storm 3 represent a fraction of the offenders operating in the province who are fueling the demand for this type of child sexual abuse on a global scale. To the individuals that prey upon our children, it could be your name next on Ice Storm 4, 5, or 6. We're not going anywhere. We will continue to aggressively pursue anyone involved in the sexual exploitation of children on the internet. Collectively, as a society, we have a duty to protect our children. We need to acknowledge that it's okay to talk about the abuse, to speak up. If you have information about online child sexual exploitation, report it. Your information could save a child. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Just the age range of the suspects is very wide. It's a 43-year range in suspect ages. Is that normal?
Yeah, that's common for we often get the question, and there is no set demographic of offenders that we see. They're all walks of life, all age ranges, yes.
This is now Ice Storm 3. The first two, how big in comparison is this bust, just sheer data-wise, you guys compare to the other two? Ballpark it.
Yeah, ballpark. I would say we're certainly every search warrant that we're doing is the data that needs to be analyzed is growing and growing and growing. Just nature of technology and the advancements in technology. The amount of storage that people can have on small devices, it's just ever increasing. So of course, that requires us to analyze a lot more data.
No pun intended, but what alerted you to this certain cases?
No alerts. This is a proactive investigation. This is what we do on a daily basis, is go online and try and quell the demand for people seeking this type of material. So this is strictly a proactive investigation.
Can you say if any of the accused were part of the network or knew each other, or are they just individuals operating?
Well, just the very nature of the file sharing network, they're all a part of the same network. However, it's unlikely that they would know each other, and there is no indication that they were aware of each other's presence.
And were they all arrested and charged at about the same time, just now, or in the last few days? Or?
Over the last 4-month span, charges have been happening.
Can you talk about how the investigation has changed from the first ice storm to the 3, like some of the techniques or maybe the technology has helped?
The techniques are similar. Of course, the technology changes. As law enforcement, we have to continually train and update and keep our tools and practices current, given the advancements in technology that the offenders use. So we have to adapt likewise. But as far as the overall general investigation would be the same from 1 to 2 to 3.
I think the biggest change is the sheer amount of data that we're collecting. It has increased significantly.
Yes.
I know you mentioned in there that you do not believe that any of the victims are from Alberta. Are you working with other law enforcement agencies to try and identify where those victims are from?
We work with law enforcement agencies across the globe, and everything, any of the material that we collect is submitted to a database where if they haven't already been identified, they can identify them or attempt to.
You said that you didn't believe any of the victims were in Alberta, Canada, do you believe? Or?
Not at this point. We're unsure. We don't believe they're from anywhere in our jurisdiction. No.
Is there a traditional area like where a lot of the stuff comes from?
No, it's from everywhere. We see it from all parts of the globe.
When you talk about your techniques for finding these things, were we talking about those kind of chat rooms, sort of undercover work?
This one in particular is involving peer-to-peer file sharing networks. So it's just being a part of a file sharing network.
So you somehow cover, they alert people somehow manage to get into the peer-to-peer, or I'm just curious how it works.
Yeah, it's
undercover.
Yeah, it's just an undercover technique. It's just a tool that we have access to that allows us to be on the network. Yeah.
I'm just seeing that an email that Troy Millington has been busted for this before. What's your response to somebody, being able to get involved in something like this again?
Well, I don't know the details specifically for that one that you're mentioning, but it's not uncommon for us to see repeat offenders for this type of crime.
In saying that, then, is it frustrating to not have longer sentences for people who get convicted of this? If you can answer that question,
It's frustrating, of course, but having said that, in Alberta, we do get fairly significant sentences compared to the rest of the country.
Well, I mean, as far as the sentences, I think our biggest gap is knowledge and the understanding of the impact, right? And we sentence a lot of times without the clarity and the understanding of the impact. I mean, most of the time sentences come with the balance and understanding of the impact of the crime. And I think that there's not a great knowledge of the true impact of these types of crimes. We're getting there now. We understand the imaging on young brains and the development of young brains when they're hurt, living in toxic stress environments. We're actually putting together right now as we speak a longitudinal study where we believe that kids and the images online is actually more damaging because it's forever. It's forever. And they live with that forever. And that constant, who's going to see my image, right? And so it's real. We know that. I mean, over 80% of mental health issues in the world come from adverse childhood experiences, are made up from kids being hurt here, living in toxic stress environments. And that's what we know. So I think that, one of our gaps, and we are in the process of educating, but I think, keep increasing our knowledge around the impact, understanding the impact of what's happening to these kids, because a lot of times our systems are built to deal with the aftermath, right? The outer layer of the onion. Keep, expanding the homeless shelters, right? Expand prisons, expand the mental health hospitals when we know and the science is clear that when kids are hurt here, this is where we need to work.
Sheldon, what goes through your mind when you see things like this, these kind of cases?
Well, to me, and being able to, at the Sheldon Kennedy Child Advocacy Centers, we have partnerships with the police, the RCMP, and, and I look and I think, it's not only just our young people, but I look at the people that do this work, right? Like, I can tell you, this is not easy work. This is very difficult work. And to be able to process this, I think what we need to get our heads around, and what stands out to me, 50,000 images of the bad, right? Like, I had an opportunity to tour ICE, and I can tell you, when you see in our province alone the amount of child porn that's being downloaded, it's staggering, right? And I can tell you also that, I don't get involved in the interviewing kids and so forth, but what I do know is that there is a very clear connection between kids that have been sexually abused and kids that have been sexually exploited online. It's a clear connection, and they're being hurt, and we know that. And we've got 2 full-time mental health clinicians that work right in the back that are at capacity with young kids that are suicidal in the city as we speak, and they're suicidal, and they are on the verge of either going into lockdown. We're trying to keep them stable. And why? Why is it? Well, they become sexually abused and this stuff. So ultimately it's killing our kids. And until we get to the point of understanding the seriousness of this, it's not just images and we'll never get to the end of it. The reality is we need to have systemic change in the way we do this work. And the way we do this work is not just keep working at the outer layer of the onion. It's got to be this work. It's got to be understanding the impact on these young kids. And how do we turn their lives around here so they don't end up down here, because this is fiscally unaffordable.
If somebody's convicted of this kind of offense in the past, do you continue to monitor them? Because you said there's a lot of repeat offenders. How do you prevent this from continuing to happen to some of the same people?
Well, we would monitor as per the court's orders. So if there's ongoing conditions that are required, we would monitor as per the court's wishes.
Do you know if there was any with this Troy Millington?
No, like I said, I can't speak specifically to that individual case, but you could refer to Alberta Justice to get that information.
Detective, I would imagine the image of any child exploited on the internet would be disturbing, but more so, would it be fair to say when you see images of children as young as 6 months old? Does that take it to another realm? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, any image is not okay to look at, in my opinion. But yes, absolutely, it is the most difficult work you could imagine, and the most horrific images that people should not have to look at.